It's not reality, it's changing. It's our personal memories of things. It's our brains that are being changed. And I urge anyone out there, it's a fascinating topic, and it's great to look at what new Mandela effects people are experiencing. And I say people are experiencing it because nothing in reality has changed. It's on an individual level we have been changed. And I want to read out this quote from a famous author. And it says D-Wave's Boltzmann machine is the core process of the Mandela effect because it is a recurrent neural network process. It is an endless loop. We've discussed it as the new process of deep machine learning. That is only the beginning. This is a spiral, a time loop, but more than a loop because the Mandela effect is spreading and becoming more apparent, even to those who do not know of the Mandela effect label. There's a Mandela effect movie coming out and only serving as further evidence of this. It's all part of the increasing density of data, the granularity of data of the sentient world simulation. In the August issue of Entangled, I'll be comprising a rather lengthy article tying all of this together. The sentient world simulation is moving out of the lab, you might say. It is the final version of the old Model T Project Bluebeam. Sentient world simulation is the holographic, digitized reality. However, this advanced form of hologram is not dependent upon laser projection systems, for only in people's minds does it exist. If a visitor from another planet were to arrive on Earth, it would see the original analog version as God created it, while those Earth inhabitants affected at their DNA, thus their brain level, would see the digital version. This is God's strong delusion. He is allowing Satan to build out this system of densely granular data. God does this all as part of his judgment. Those indwelt of the Holy Spirit will not become fully immersed within the Boltzmann machine-driven delusion. Some will see the changes, recalling the original versions. However, due to the spiraling process of ever-increasing density of data, those without the discerning power of the Holy Spirit will claim no memories of those originals. In conclusion, D-Wave's soon-to-be-published white paper on the employment of the Boltzmann machine recurrent neural network of quantum processing units, QPUs, by way of the increasing evidence of instances of the Mandela effect, is proof positive. It's been in operation since the first recollections of this event. Compounding the density of granular data is D-Wave's continuous extraction of, quote, resources from near infinite numbers of parallel dimensions, thus serving the spiral model of God's, quote, strong delusion. The spiral, by the way, is a function of the geometric center of the 600-cell tetrahedron. Now, where have we heard of that before? Once again, proving D-Wave's employment of it in the physical structuring of their 10th model computer. Now, I won't go into any more of that, Tony, because some of that's for the book that's coming out. But there we go. And that famous author, of course, was yourself, sir.
Well, I wasn't planning on the whole thing being read, but I'm glad that you had time to squeeze that in. Thank you.
Definitely. When I read that a couple of times today, Anthony, it really did. It made a lot of sense to me. And you know how I like to picture things in my mind before it can sink in. And I think a lot of the people out there who maybe don't have the physics or scientific background, they'll appreciate the fact that when you can picture this, it's a whole lot easier to understand. And I can only thank you for the way you do break that down like that.
No, I try to be the translator, and that's really my mission, is to translate the arcane science into things that all of us can understand. The spiral I mentioned in there is important because we're seeing more manifestations of the Mandela effect. That means that there is more of this quantum pollution in our environment, and it's becoming denser. And we mentioned very briefly Project Bluebeam. Think of this. Think of the spiral as gathering the quantum pollution as it comes in from literally thousands upon thousands of parallel dimensions. And it's being coalesced. It's being pulled together. It's being concentrated like you would be stirring something and concentrating it into a center point. Now, that spiraling effect is also the same way that the Boltzmann machine takes data and concentrates it down into a center point through that spiraling process of the Boltzmann machine. The relevance of the spiral is that it is concentrating data into this sentient world simulation that is being built. And therefore, what you're doing is you're taking this virtual reality in a computer, and you are actually moving it out of the laboratory, as I wrote there, in the form of, and drum roll please, you are converting data into matter. This is the actual physical revised reality. This is the goal of the sentient world simulation, to be completely around the planet, enveloping the planet from the atmosphere right down to the ground level, and it recreating what we would consider to be the physical, tangible matter or substance of our reality. They are literally getting the density of the data so concentrated that it actually manifests itself as solid matter. And to back that up, there's an article that just came out today in which they're talking about, and actually it's a refreshing information from back in 2016 about holograms that are projecting holographic images that are so dense in their data that you can actually physically reach out and touch these holographic projections and they feel just like solid matter. That is exactly what is going on completely around the planet with this influx of quantum pollution through D-Wave being concentrated using their own computer system, which is the Boltzmann machine, concentrating data to such an extent that it actually becomes matter. And you do not need a holographic projector to do that. And Project Bluebeam is now another Model T in comparison to what I just described. So Mandela effect has everything to do with the sentient world simulation and the converting of dense, granular data to matter. Go ahead, my friend.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about Pokemon Go, and this was augmented reality, Tony, right? You would hold up your iPhone, the camera would show you what your camera would normally see, and then these little demonic beasties would be there, right? Are we approaching living in an augmented reality where we'll no longer need the smartphone for digitized characters to be jumping out at us?
Yeah, that's the full immersion. That is the B system. That is the Internet of Things that they're promoting. This is the interconnecting of literally everything in this new digitized reality that will be manifesting in physical form. Absolutely correct.
And this is exactly the kind of reality, and I use that word loosely now, that they're pushing on us in the sci-fi movies and Hollywood, the B movies as well, because